and I'm going to talk about a film that's out in theaters right now, A Man Called Otto, Tom Hanks film, and welcome to the Hanks Family Project. Yes, that's right. So, um, I heard it was really a great film. I heard it was this awesome film, and then I saw it, and I was like, oh. I feel like I'm watching a boomer film by boomers for boomers. Like it's sort of like the folks that are older than me dealing with like grief and being a senior and being lonely and being angry. And I'm like, okay, hold on a minute. So it's like Tom Hanks stars in it. He co-produced it with his wife, Rita, and their company. And then they cast their son, Truman, who plays the younger version of Tom in all of the key flashbacks. And somehow they got the label comedy associated with the film, and it's not, it's a drama. And then to make it even more derivative for you, it's a second generation derivative film, meaning there's a book and then there's a Swedish adaptation of that book, a Swedish film called A Man Called Ove, which was nominated for 2 Oscars back in 2015. So I know what to do. Let's remake a 2015 movie for the white people in America. Yeah. Um Oh my gosh. So there are some really good elements to the film because it is dealing with a very serious topic and something I think is really an epidemic that really not enough people are focusing on. And that is, why are you retiring? What are you doing in your retirement? Dealing with loneliness. What about grief if you lose your spouse? And for this character, Otto, he is got a long resume of reasons to be bitter and jaded. And through these flashbacks, we see the younger Hanks play the younger Otto, and we see some of that play out. But when we find Otto, he is on his last day at our steel company. He's, quote, retiring, but basically they've done the old bait and switch where you hire your young replacement, basically, right? So you're basically shoveled right out the door. He lives in sort of like this very small, kind of like almost like duplexes community. And he is the epitome of the unbearable, over the top rule enforcer for like an HMO, like I'm sorry, the homeowner association kind of thing. He has nothing else to do than go around and nitpick over every little detail, and he's so bitter and jaded over all of like the little nuances of society, which don't make sense. Like you do side with Otto many, many times, and it is played for a laugh, but I wouldn't say it's a comedy. So, for instance, he's in a hardware store. He wants 5 feet of rope. They charge by the yard, so they round up to basically 2 yards. So he's debating over this 33 cents. Like, so it's played up for like the absurdity of all of it, but he's kind of unlikable along the way is the problem. And he's so bitter and jaded. He's basically trying to figure out how to self-delete, right? The rope is to make a noose, right? So he's figuring all of that out. And what interrupts it is these neighbors, right? A Hispanic couple's moving in. They don't know how to park their vehicle. He has to teach them how to back up with a trailer, and he's mocking them the whole time. Again, that's what's played for laughs. It's not like a joke. It's more like just the situational humor of those moments. And her name is Marisol. The husband's name's Tony. They have 2 girls, and it is what the jokes are that she is so over the top trying to befriend him and being kind and generous and loving and sweet. She'll make comments about, you're just you're so like warm and cuddly, that kind of thing. Tony is like the absolute incompetent male. Like he's not good at anything. I mean, I am not the handy guy. I'm not the outdoor guy. And this guy makes me look like a freaking Tim Allen show sequel. Like this is nuts. He doesn't know what kind of Allen wrenches there are. He doesn't know how to use the ladder properly. He falls and gets hurt. But Otto's incompetence at trying to end himself is always about these interruptions, right? And it's sort of like played up as being part of like fate. fate is trying to let you know you still have a purpose. You still have something, right? Is it a bizarre set of coincidences, or is there some underlying message, right? And in the flashbacks, we see uh, Otto not being able to get into the military. He has a genetic disorder he inherited from his dad. It's an enlarged heart. He finds this book. He sees this woman drop her book. So he basically tracks her down on this train, gives her the book. And he's not even riding the right train. So he has to try to pay. He doesn't have money. So there's this sweetness between the two of them as they connect. She obviously likes him, but she's way above his league, right? He's batting way out of his above his batting average, right? So he does try to track her down to pay her back the money, and ultimately agree to have dinner. And you see this general sweetness and connection that they have. It really is a great line, because he's sitting there and he's having like a bowl of soup, I think it is, and she's having like a nice entree. And he's like, well, why did you do this? Like, well, I ate before we came. Why would you do that? So you could order whatever you want, implying he's so poor that he ate ahead, so he wouldn't want to eat. He'd eat the cheapest thing he could, but she could order whatever she wanted. And then she just kisses him. Like, it just becomes this abrupt connection. And there is a great line later on when Otto is reflecting on Sonya about, I'm black and white. She was my color. I had nothing before her, and I have nothing since she's gone, because she passes away. So in our real story, Marisol continues to interrupt things because there's another attempt. Otto has to help her learn how to drive because she doesn't know how to drive. She only has a learner's permit. She has no idea what she's doing. And Otto is total old school, right? He has like a Chevy. He drives a stick. There's conflict at the hospital. And it's really, some of these things are just kind of clunkily thrown together. And again, it's derivative, right? So it's derivative from a book, derivative of another movie. I'm not familiar with the original source material, but usually when you're saturating things, the track records is they just get clunkier. They try to do these things, but because they eliminate so much context, it just doesn't really quite work. There's this coin that he's referring to about being a really nice coin. It's a quarter from 1964. So in this hospital scene, there's this clown trying to do one of those, magic tricks with the disappearing coin. And when he gets the coin back, it's not the right quarter because he knows what quarter it is. He ends up punching. It's at least off camera, which actually makes it funnier because there's all this like how to tell the story. Anyway, the kids are super sweet and really drawn to Otto. And there's also like this random cat. It almost is like a lot of like the elements of like a Hallmark movie, a sweet movie, an innocent movie free from, I don't think there's really any cursing or anything like that. There's definitely like that, nothing like that that's objectionable. It's more like just generic, depressed dude wants to let it go. And anytime he's setting up the next situation, because he does like the hose in the car, he immediately is into like these hallucinations and flashbacks to him and Sonya. And you ultimately have all of this sort of being fleshed out. But of course, he gets interrupted again, right? You also have these random things that are thrown in that don't make sense. They're just so infused of like modern storytelling. I wouldn't say it's like, well, it is woke, but it's not like, if this was the worst it got, it would just not be a big deal. It's just another thing that we have. So there's a woman that shows up. She announces that she's a, quote, social media journalist, and she wants to talk to Otto. Well, there'd been a scene earlier where a dude is at the train station and he basically passes out into the tracks, and Otto saves him. It's caught on video, and he's a viral sensation, right? But who announces themselves as a social media journalist? It just felt so out of place and weird, like interjected in there. There's this news. So there's again, gags, right, of the rolled up spam newspaper that's being delivered. He confronts the kid. It's Malcolm, and Malcolm is like, oh, I know who you are. You spoke at my school. Your wife is the only one who called me by the name Malcolm. Basically, he's trans, right? And it was like, it's sort of like inserted in and forced in of this forced tolerance that really contradicts Otto's personality of being so rigid and staunch on traditionalism and things of his past that it seems weird to just roll right over just based on one little conversation that allegedly involved his wife. I don't know. It's fine. Malcolm is a nice enough character, and it plays as a nice juxtaposition because the next morning, Otto's the one. Oh, well, Otto gets thrown out of the house from the dad, we assume, over the trans nonsense. It's kind of touched on, but I got to be honest, I was kind of checking out at this point where some of these things were just like generic subplots thrown in. Malcolm's making breakfast and fixing coffee and those kinds of things. So it's really more about Marisol trying to be a reason for Otto to have some purpose because of her family, right? She's becoming like a surrogate family with a lot of purpose for Otto. Like he can carry on and find value in life every day and not trying to end it. And we have more flashbacks with the Sonia situation of when she actually passed away. There was a bus accident because they wanted to go on vacation when she finally got pregnant with their son. And there was a bus accident. She becomes paralyzed, loses the child, and she recently had passed away because of cancer. And we have neighbors and subplots with their illness and whatever, and they were friends, and conflict over how Otto was removed from the homeowner association. And if it all sounds kind of complicated, it's because they tried to do a lot of complicated things, but in a very generic way. Like again, it's Hallmark, right? So it's like throwing a whole bunch of little things in a wall that Otto is in, but we don't have enough real complexity. Again, it plays for a lot of great emotion. Like when he really does come clean with Marisol about his wife and all of that, he's teaching her how to drive. You can see him really befriend her as almost like a surrogate daughter. And it is true that, Otto eventually gets sick. He goes to the hospital and she goes in labor and has a son. And, the emotions just continue to build and build and build until this end where, when Otto does finally pass because of his heart, everything goes to her. She's like the daughter he never had, basically. And it is very emotional. It does hit you in the feels a little bit, right? But I don't know. It just feels like a very generic feel-good film, but it's also just like, yeah, like it was okay. I don't know that it's, on the high end, it's a 6. Like it's a middle of the road movie. What's weird is they claim the budget for this is like $50 million, but there's a news story about this. When this whole thing went public with the original Swedish film or something, Sony paid like a ton of money. Like it was some sort of record-breaking number, which I thought was like $50 or $60 million. I didn't bother looking it up, but I remember that story. Like, holy cow, someone's paying $50 to $60 million for the rights to make a movie. Like that was unheard of. Like some of the stuff is maybe $1 million, but 50 or I don't know. I don't know what the numbers are now, but anyway, and maybe this is also pre-pandemic that the world's just changed so dramatically and everything just seems like a complete disaster based on that. So, your mom or your dad or someone older than me will like this movie. If you have a sweet Hallmark person in your family that loves those kinds of films, this is the movie for them. I guess if you like crotchety old Tom Hanks, like he's fine in this. It's okay. Tons of little quirky characters and side stories and subplots and feel good moments and stuff, but comedy, we're really being flippant with that label. So anyway, that's my take. Maybe you guys disagree. Maybe you guys will watch it. Maybe when it hits streaming, you guys will watch it and you'll come back around and tell me what you guys think. Anyway, so that's my take on it. You guys to give me your thoughts. I'm Pops. Thank you so much.